Daniel Turner had always believed that the strength of a community lay in respect. Respect for neighbors, respect for traditions, and most importantly, respect for boundaries. His family's private road wasn't just a strip of cracked asphalt. It was the quiet heart of his heritage. It connected his childhood memories with his present, carrying echoes of his father's laughter and his mother's songs as they worked the small garden that bordered it. For years, neighbors walked across it, and Daniel never once minded. It was more than a road. It was a symbol of openness and belonging. But everything changed one spring morning when Daniel stepped outside with his coffee mug in hand. A set of glaring white signs had appeared overnight. Private road, HOA property, trespassing will result in fines. His heart sank. The Homeowners Association had claimed his road. At first, Daniel thought it had to be a mistake. Perhaps the board had accidentally placed the signs on his property. But when he knocked on the president's door, the response was chillingly calm. It's for the good of the community. The board voted, and we've decided the road is part of the HOA now. It keeps things organized. Daniel froze. This wasn't an accident. It was a takeover. He returned home, staring at the signs, his father's voice echoing in his memory. This land is ours, son. It carries our name. Never let anyone erase it. That morning, a seed of quiet defiance rooted itself in Daniel's chest. The HOA had not only taken his road, they had awakened a fire he never knew he carried. And though he said nothing, he didn't argue in the moment, Daniel knew one truth. They had crossed a line they would regret. Daniel's connection to the road stretched back to childhood. His father, Richard, had built it with his own two hands after the county refused to pave the muddy trail leading to their house. Richard had worked nights, laying gravel by lantern light, smoothing the surface with a borrowed roller until it was strong enough for their truck. To Daniel, the road was a monument, not of wealth, but of perseverance. As a boy, Daniel had raced along it with scraped knees and sunburned cheeks. It was where he first learned how to ride a bike, wobbling under his father's steadying hand. Later, as a teenager, he'd driven nervously down it in his first car, his mother waving proudly from the porch. Over the years, neighbors began to use the road, too. Daniel never minded. Kindness ran deep in his blood. Families walked their dogs. Along it, children chalked drawings on its edges, and even delivery trucks used it as a shortcut. But everyone knew it belonged to the Turners. It was their sweat, their labor, their history etched into every crack. The HOA, however, had always been a shadow in the neighborhood, strict about lawn heights, mailbox colors, and fence sizes. Daniel often rolled his eyes at their letters, but complied to avoid trouble. Never once did he imagine they would set their sights on the very road his family had built. When they claimed it, they didn't just seize asphalt. They tore at Daniel's memories, at the promise his father had made. This road is for you, for your children, and theirs after them. Daniel's heart ached with betrayal. The people he had allowed to walk freely had turned his generosity into entitlement. And though his neighbors didn't realize it yet, their silence in this theft was as painful as the theft itself. The HOA's grip tightened quickly. Notices appeared in mailboxes, warning of fines for improper use of the base road. Daniel received one himself, accusing him of parking on HOA property. He stared at the letter, fury rising. They had not only stolen his land, but were now threatening him for using it. When he confronted the board at a meeting, he was dismissed with condescending smiles. It's already been decided, the president said. The road is now under HOA jurisdiction. Please respect community rules. The other board members nodded in rehearsed agreement. Daniel's pleas fell on deaf ears. He produced old photographs of his father building the road, even receipts for gravel and construction equipment. They shrugged. That was before the Neighborhood was developed. Things have changed. The weight of injustice pressed on Daniel. He felt trapped in a nightmare where truth didn't matter and authority spoke louder than honesty. Friends whispered sympathy, but stayed silent in public. No one wanted to anger the HOA. The road that had once been a source of joy now mocked him. Each time he stepped outside, the bold HOA signs glared back, reminders of what he had lost. And each time a neighbor's car rolled casually across it, Daniel's chest tightened with grief. But in that grief, something stronger began to grow. Silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. Daniel realized the HOA had underestimated him. They thought his quiet meant weakness. They thought he would accept their theft. They were wrong. Daniel began documenting everything. Each car that used the road, each fine notice, each smug dismissal at board meetings. He wrote it all down. He spent late nights digging through county archives, searching for proof of ownership. The records were there, survey maps, deeds, and signatures, all tying the road to the Turner family. But Daniel didn't rush. He knew the HOA was powerful, and power blinded people. The longer they believed they had won, the harder their fall would be. Meanwhile, he kept his demeanor calm. He nodded at neighbors, attended meetings without protest, and watched as the HOA grew careless in its arrogance. They raised fines, boasted about their new authority, and treated Daniel's silence as defeat. Behind closed doors, however, Daniel's plan was unfolding. He contacted lawyers, gathered testimonies from old neighbors who remembered his father building the road, and quietly prepared a legal storm. The turning point came one evening when Daniel overheard two board members laughing about putting him in his place. Something snapped inside him. He realized this wasn't just about land, it was about dignity. From that night forward, Daniel vowed he wouldn't just reclaim his road. He would teach the HOA a lesson they'd never forget. The months that followed tested Daniel's patience and resolve. His evenings were consumed with paperwork, phone calls, and meetings with attorneys. Each document he uncovered felt like a piece of his father's voice, urging him forward. There were setbacks. The HOA's lawyers tried to drown him in bureaucracy. They delayed hearings, questioned evidence, and painted him as a stubborn neighbor unwilling to cooperate. Daniel felt the weight of isolation pressing harder, but he refused to yield. He leaned on the memories of his father's calloused hands spreading gravel on the road, of his mother reminding him that truth was always worth fighting for. Slowly, momentum shifted. County officials began to recognize the legitimacy of his claim. Testimonies piled up. Even some neighbors, once silent, offered support in whispers that grew into public statements. The cracks in the HOA's confidence widened. Daniel endured. Long nights, tired mornings, and moments of doubt. But with each step, he inched closer to justice. His road, his history, his dignity, he was ready to reclaim it all. The courtroom was silent when the judge delivered the verdict. The evidence was undeniable. The road belonged solely to Daniel Turner. The HOA had no right to claim it, no authority to fine him, and no justification for their arrogance. Relief washed over Daniel, followed by a quiet satisfaction. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't lashed out in anger. He had let the truth speak louder than pride. Within days, the HOA's signs were ordered removed. Notices were sent out declaring the road private once more, with all past fines voided. The HOA's reputation was shattered. Then came the part no one expected. Daniel exercised his legal right to tow every car parked on his road. One by one, vehicles disappeared, not out of vengeance, but out of justice. The very board members who had mocked him now faced the sting of humility. Daniel didn't boast. He simply stood on his porch, watching as the last car was hauled away. His father's words echoed again. Never let anyone erase what is yours. The neighborhood never looked the same after that. The HOA, once feared, now spoke in hushed tones. Neighbors who had stayed silent came to Daniel with apologies, some offering pies or handshakes, others simply nodding in quiet respect. Daniel accepted their gestures with grace but never forgot the loneliness he had endured. The experience had changed him. He learned that silence could be power, patience could be strength, and dignity could be defended without shouting. Most of all, he understood the deeper meaning of legacy. The road wasn't just his father's gift. It was a reminder that what is earned through sacrifice must be guarded with courage. As he walked down the road one evening, the sunset painting the sky in golden hues, Daniel smiled. Justice had prevailed. But more importantly, he had honored his family's name. And so the road remained, quiet, steady, eternal. A testament not just to asphalt and gravel, but to resilience, memory, and the unbreakable will of a man who refused to be erased. A Midsummer. Knight's Dream by William Shakespeare playfully explores love, marriage, and their inherent challenges. This essay argues that the play portrays marriage as both restricting and difficult, yet ultimately a meaningful and valuable institution. Commensurate with its origins in a court marriage, this drama speaks throughout for a sophisticated Renaissance philosophy of the nature of love in both its rational and irrational forms. This is illustrated by the fact that a significant disparity existed in the expectations placed on men and women. Hermia embodies this struggle as she defies her father Aegeus's wishes to marry Demetrius, showcasing her desire for autonomy and true love, rather than just fulfilling her duty to her society. Conversely, men are generally afforded a broader range of achievements and aspirations. They are encouraged to pursue careers, adventures, and personal accomplishments that can lead to social recognition. Demetrius, for instance, initially pursues Hermia out of a sense of entitlement, thinking he can claim her because that is what society expects of her. Another example is the marriage of Theseus and Hippolyta. Their relationship is rooted in conquest and power dynamics, which reflect the expectations of a hierarchical society. Theseus, as the Duke of Athens, represents a figure signifying his authority, and his marriage to a conquered queen, Hippolyta, suggests that marriage can also be about control and possession rather than something much purer.